There's a decent proportion of advisors and firms that are still hesitant to use large language models and chat because of AI's tendency to hallucinate and make stuff up. That can be pretty dangerous for your practice when it comes to compliance, or even in the context of building trust with clients that can quickly break trust. It makes perfect sense why advisors are still hesitant to use these models. However, in this video, I'm going to try to bring some clarity around this concept of hallucinations and talk about what are the different kinds of hallucinations, why do they happen, and what can we do to actually minimize them. So what are the different types of hallucinations? And I'll start off with the most common type of hallucinations that you may have experienced when you use AI chatbots, which is factual inaccuracies. AI can tend to make stuff up. If you ask it a question, for example, who was the first president of the United States, it may say John Adams was the first president of the United States, right? So you may have experienced this before. You may have heard crazy news stories as well of, lawyers getting into trouble because they used a chatbot and the chatbot made up case law. So this is not a foreign topic. It's been around for the last 2 years since ChatGPT got released, and it creates a lot of hesitancy, I would say, with advice to use chatbots. But let's go on with the next type of hallucination. Prompt contradiction. So you throw in a prompt and the model responds with something completely different than what you put in the prompt box, right? And the third kind of contradiction is a sentence contradiction. So which means you put in a prompt and you read through the first few lines of the paragraph and it seems like it's, doing the job. And then you read the second and the third paragraph and you're like, wait a minute, kind of contradicting itself. It's saying different things. Like in the first paragraph, it said something along the lines of, the sky is blue, and the third paragraph is saying the sky is green. So it can tend to contradict itself, right? So why does it happen? Large language models are trained on billions of web pages. And so one of the core reasons why these models hallucinate for your specific use case or your specific industry, which means you're, as a wealth advisor working with clients, these models are not trained specifically on financial data. They're not trained to operate in a certain way that you need them to for your practice, right? So it's synthesizing content from across the internet. That's billions of web pages and a lot of data. And so it's trying to make sense out of all of that. And so it tends to generalize its responses. So when you throw in a prompt and you try to get an accurate response from it, and if it doesn't have the answer, if it doesn't know exactly what you mean, make stuff up. Kind of like talking to some people sometimes. If you ask them a question and they don't know the answer to it, they can tend to make stuff up. So not a whole lot of difference here, right? But it comes down to data quality, right? What is the quality of data that these models are trained on? And a lot of models today are trained on, as I mentioned before, the entirety of the web. This could mean, Reddit page. It could mean a finance pro's blog and different sections here, but it is also trained on some good quality data as well, right? A lot of people have published really great content and things that we can actually use. The key is to know how to get the best out of these models, right? So another reason, and I kind of touched on this before, why these models hallucinate is because of the input prompt itself. Your prompt instructions that go into a large language model can be very specific, very detailed, very clear. And, that's also why we saw an entire new field called prompt engineering that really blew up on the scene, because, people needed to know how to talk to these models and get the best out of it. But prompt instructions are really key, and it's something that can be learned. It's not impossible to learn how to, talk to these models and get the best out of it. And honestly, these models are getting way better, even with simple prompts. But specificity always brings better output. Okay, so let's go to the final bit of this video. What can we do to actually minimize hallucination? Are there any things that we can do? I did touch on this, in the previous section, but it really comes down to the prompt instructions, right? So let's talk about input prompting. You want to add very specific tasks. You want to add very specific sections that you want the AI to touch on. So there are different prompting techniques. It's chain of thought, which means it takes a bigger task and breaks it down into subtopics. So for example, write me a blog on retirement planning, and then you can specialize and write, add delimiters below that and say, focus on 401k accounts, focus on ROG conversions, focused on attack minimization strategy. So you have the high-level task, which is write me a blog on retirement planning, but then you're also mentioning the subtasks that it needs to work on. That's when you can start getting better output from model. And the second minimization strategy that you can use is to actually inject your knowledge base into the large language model. So when you do that, you tend to, what you're really doing, you're grounding the model with a base level of fact and truth that you fully trust, right? You're a domain expert. There are things that you know about financial planning. There are things that you know about client communications that you want to inject into the model, right? And you want to make sure that the model is retrieving information from that knowledge base when it creates content for you or when it does any kind of writing workflows for you, right? When you do that, the hallucination rates dramatically tend to drop because you are grounding the AI. And content grounding is really an essential core piece of, dropping the hallucination rates, right? Because you're bringing context awareness, you're bringing the model awareness to new information it did not have access to before. But more than that, you're giving it specific instructions of how to retrieve information from your knowledge base. So that's some of the things that we've been trying to do here at AdvisorX as well. They're very content grounding folks. It is the bedrock of what we do. Every piece of content we generate is built off of your knowledge base and built off of web searches that you want the AI to pull data from. That is an essential part of dropping hallucinations, but also the input text prompt, being specific, being clear, that can give your model a lot of context. So hope this was clear. This is kind of high level. There are lots of technicalities around why models hallucinate. We do know for a fact that as these models get better and better, as we're seeing with GPT 4.0, its reasoning capabilities improve. If reasoning capabilities improve, models tend to hallucinate less. Because keep in mind, at the end of the day, these are prediction machines. They're predicting the next best word, but if you give it logical reasoning steps and tell it how to act, you get way better output. So this video made sense to you, and I hope it a little bit more, what's the word I may want to use? A little bit more encouragement to play around with these chatbots and to actually put your practice.